International geopolitical conflict will not derail the resolve of the great brotherhood of movie reviewers. Our mettle has been tested in the past. The Citizen Kane review was posted despite Pearl Harbor. When Saigon fell in 1975, our reviews of Jaws still went forth, closing even more beaches. With movie quality at an all-time low as a result of stalled century, combined with the depression of endless lockdowns, our services are needed more than ever. We will not let Vladimir Putin nor any other tyrant derail our commitment to the good people to whom we dedicate our movie reviews. Hey guys, it's Matt. I'm going to make the main points pretty quickly here so you can make a determination if you want to stick with this type of discussion or this review. The philosophical questions posed by Severance are, I think, huge, and it goes way beyond the TV show. So even if you're not interested in any way seeing this, it's the discussion that's more important. It's not even that good. I'm not sure many of you would even want to see it. By no means, it's certainly not worth buying Apple TV to see this. I mean, it is bizarre. It's slow in the beginning, but if you relate what's being presented to some sort of massive analogy or metaphor for life itself and this existence itself, which, as usual, most of the commenters and other people, at least what I've seen, review it. They don't seem to get what you and I see in the first 10 seconds of what's being presented. It's a pretty mind-boggling concept to think about. So this is Severance that just came out on Apple TV. There are 2 episodes posted. The third might be posted tonight or tomorrow, or it might have even been last night. So at the most, there's 3 episodes out with maybe 5 more episodes coming. You can't binge it. It does come weekly. The people that you see on the top right, and by the way, if you're driving, there's not many pictures here. You'll be able to follow. The people that work in this cubicle cluster have volunteered for a procedure where a chip has been medically inserted into their brain where when they're at work, they have no recollection at all of their personal life. And I mean zero. They don't know if they speculate amongst themselves. Do you think I'm married? Do I have kids out there? They don't even know where they live. Now, when they cross a certain threshold, say they get out of work at 5 o'clock on a Monday, when they cross over a certain threshold or push a door to go out to get in their car, the moment they step across the threshold, they remember every part of their personal life, and they don't remember anything they did inside of work. Complete mind wipe going both ways. Immediately, you would think of this. I thought of this. I doubt many regular people watching, but it seems to be some gigantic analogy or presenting a metaphor for potentially what this existence is all about. This is where this conversation's going. But let me tell you, for another 3, 4, 5 minutes more about the show Severance, and then we'll get into the larger philosophical issues, which it does get kind of mind-blowing. It seems very simple now. Oh, they forget work, but there's some concepts that really start to blow your mind if you want to stick with me. Okay, just a little more about the show. I won't give anything away other than the basics. If anybody wants to watch this, really no spoilers here. And there's I've only seen most of 2 episodes. I didn't even see the last 15 minutes of episode 2, so there's nothing I really can give away anyway. Then we'll get into the philosophical conversation on the back end. So let's start with, in a moment we'll start with the woman laying on the desk. This is basically how the show starts. But before that, it seems to be these folks that get the mind wipe going each way. They seem to be a little experimental unit inside this large, very, very large corporation. It does not appear that everybody in the corporation has this chip. In fact, because they're so isolated, it's a very sterile, strange, brave new world environment where they're kept isolated from the rest of the corporation. They only interact amongst themselves. And what they turn out in terms of what they're doing in terms of their job is almost complete nonsense. I mean, they believe what they're doing is very important, but to the outside observer, it's just kind of like moving numbers around on a table. They're not even really doing anything. And it's just a very strange, the feel of the show you get within the first five or, well, you'd have to give it 10 or 15 minutes. And it continues. That feel continues. If that feel does not suit you, I mean, this is what you get with this show. It's very strange. People online and reviewers are generally liking it, but that doesn't mean anything to me. I don't want to get too conspiratorial, but if the system needs to push this, then it will make sure the reviewers like it. We'll just keep it at that. I mean, when I first looked at The Force Awakens for Star Wars and it got 94% or 97%, I mean, we knew 5 years ago that Rotten Tomatoes and all the reviewers is when the system wants to push something out, the reviews are false. It doesn't matter what the audience score is, what the Rotten Tomatoes score is. It doesn't matter, and it is potentially. I'll get to this later. The system, for different reasons, may be needing to push these concepts out on the population at this time. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. Let me just continue with the basics about what's going on in the TV show. If you're not watching or just listening, the top right image is one of the four workers or main stars of the show waking up. It's very symbolic. I don't really know what the symbolism is. If anybody does, comment below, please. She wakes up after the procedure, after a chip has just been inserted into her brain. Everybody wakes up on the conference table. You don't wake up in a medical ward, or they wake up on the conference table. I'm just doing the review here, guys, and the philosophical discussion that Greg and I were talking about, a splitting off of personalities, and we bring in the corpus callosum and all that. I haven't, with the eyes of, I'm no symbolism expert anyway, but I just haven't put that set of eyes on it yet. So it's obvious symbolism. She wakes up after the procedure on a boardroom table, 12 chairs, long fake cherrywood desk, and just a speaker right in front of her. And the speaker starts talking to her and says, I forget what they say. Hello, are you okay? Can you answer a series of questions for me? Remember, she had just had the procedure. So she's at work now, so she's not going to remember one bit of who she is on the outside world. A complete mind wipe. Yeah, relating that to what has potentially happened to us coming into this Earth reality? Absolutely. A complete mind wipe. She freaks out. She doesn't even, question one might be, do you even know your name? She knows nothing about herself, nothing about the outside world. She freaks out. She gets off the table. She starts, trying to pull the door open, which is locked. And the monitors are testing to see if the mind wipe took. They want her not to have any information at all about the outside world or herself, or the procedure doesn't work or didn't work. So the first few days at work, she begins to learn about herself, and they even have to tell her what her name is. Now, the moment she goes home for the evening, she steps across the threshold and goes, all memories come back, all understanding of the outside world, what was on TV last night, what she had for dinner, but she looks back, say, at work, and she has no idea what she just did across the threshold or behind that door. And that's how this works. Okay, mind-blowing topic number one, at least to me, is centered around the fact that two different entities start to emerge. Two completely different people beyond a split personality inside the same person. And one person starts to experience a living hell. Let me describe it. And what's so kind of interesting about this and creative as to the way they put this show out, even to you maybe, or to the normal person, this seems very attractive at first. Maybe that's how they get people to sign up and say, wow, that would be great. So 5 o'clock comes on a Friday, and I step across this threshold, and I look back at work, where I work, and I have no idea what I did all day, whether I worked on a secret project or whatever, and then I don't take work home with me. I don't take the stress home with me. I certainly don't do emails from home. Initially, everybody goes, wouldn't that be great? And it might be kind of great or good from the the outer person's perspective, the entity that's allowed to live outside of work. But it becomes a living hell for the person that's in work, or the part of that person that's in work. It's similar to a USS Callister type situation. I started thinking of USS Callister, which is a really mind-blowing Black Mirror episode, where like an aspect of somebody's consciousness, or whatever it was, gets trapped, and it becomes a living hell. Now, why would it be a living hell for those that are inside work? Okay, you see some of the images here. They're inside this sterile work environment. They do these weird jobs that even some of the new people that do the jobs, like, what are we doing moving these numbers around? They don't even know what they're doing. It seems completely meaningless. And how it becomes a hell is, let's just say, it's the top, they're sitting in a circle, the top right, in the sterile environment. The woman there is new, so they're introducing each other. And there's a new person joining this little team who just had the procedure. So say it's 5 o'clock on a Friday. They get up from their chairs, and they all walk. They step across that threshold. You're the entity or the part of the brain that only knows what happens at work. You don't know what kind of car you drive. You don't know who the president of the United States is. You don't know anything. I mean, you don't know anything about what happens on the outside world. So it's 4:59, 5 o'clock. You push the door open to step across that threshold, and all you know from this entity's perspective, all you know is a split second later, you are stepping back in to the office at 8 o'clock or 8:30 on a Monday morning. See, this is where the hell starts to develop for the aspect of the person that's at work. Let me say that again, because if you're not used to the show, that's kind of strange. 4:59, it's time to go home. They don't know what they do at home. They don't know if they have a cat or a dog or who their girlfriend is. And so the entity that's stuck at work, it becomes separate. It becomes different from the entity on the outside. I think this is where the show is going to go. But it's like living in a living hell. So they go to push the door open, and they immediately are right back in, because then that entity then wakes up. So it's like they almost would think, well, it's kind of like for them, they die when they go to push the door open at 4:59 on a Friday, because that entity or that part of their aspect of themselves won't remember. It's kind of like, remember Commander Data in Star Trek? You could just shut him down, and maybe you could reactivate him 100 years later, and he would have no idea. How long has it been since I was shut off? And there's a lot of concepts like this in movies. Don't shut me off. And all they know is they push the door open, and then they're immediately stepping back into work with no recollection of time or what they did on the weekend. So this entity is literally, this part of the person is trapped. You have to see it like the procedure has created two completely different people. And what does the entity, I don't have any other way of putting it, the side of the person, I'm just going to keep saying the entity at work, the side of the person that only remembers work. They have, so let's just picture yourself right now inside a work environment or a corporation or wherever. Even if you work as a baker or something, you have no recollection of anything on the outside world. What team won the World Series? Again, personal life, fun, friends. And then as soon as you go out, you immediately come back in from your perspective. So again, I've only seen one episode and then about 35 minutes of the second episode, but this must be where they're going to take the show. The hell will start to develop on these people, and they'll have to want to try to get out, or that aspect of them. At first, I guess you have to start the series this way. They all seem very content, very content. Oh, we like our jobs, and we understand why we undertook the procedure, and it's almost like they're receiving some sort of tranquilizers in their coffee, all very contented, and nobody gets out of line. And then there's this threat that if anybody does get out of line, there's some real serious dark big brother that's going to take care of it in the corporation. But this must be where they're going to take the show. The entity, or say right now, again, you're at work and you have no idea what you do on the outside. So to you, you have no friends. Okay, you have no social life. You have no fun of any kind. There's no romance or sexual relationships of any time. There's no watching funny movies or going to a comedy club. The entity inside work, all it knows is it's people are pleasant at work and you can go get a muffin and coffee, but all it knows is when it's time to leave, you step across and then a microsecond later, you're right back in. And if anybody's rising up out of your bubble bath, trying to relate this to this existence, well, yeah, I'm not saying this is some truth drop, but they want at least a few of us thinking about it like this. These concepts, I think, on the masses right now that I've seen 2 episodes, they're not in any way going where we are here on this. I mean, they're just watching it at the first level. But this is the intent of the show, to create some sort of analogy or metaphor for existence and life itself. And, let's just let me pause for a second and take some notes as to how the analogy would work if our life in this Earth reality works the way that this show does, Severance. Now, this is where it gets pretty mind-blowing. I'm not saying this show's a truth drop. Not every work of art and TV show and movies is an actual truth drop. At this point, whatever they're leaking out, much of it will be a deception to throw off, even if it's targeted at people like us. So I'm just going to look at this as if it's a truth drop, but I'm not putting any stock that, they know how reality works and they're just giving it to us. No, this could be a gigantic deception. We have to be aware of that, of course, but let's just go through the exercise as if it's a real truth drop. So if it is, you right now living this Earth life are the entity, or the actor here was the brother, the younger or older brother, I guess, from Step Brothers. I forget his name. But you're the entity right now that's the work part of this guy, or the work entity. And what I mean, if you follow it through to the concepts in the show, the moment all you know is this Earth life. That's all you know. That's all I know. The moment we go to sleep, a whole different part of you goes off to some other part of the universe, has fun for weeks, months, whatever it may be. Time may work completely differently. This is very similar to the concepts in Bliss, the movie with Owen Wilson. And what do you mean, Matt? I'm sleeping in a bed and I'm dreaming. Well, the dream potentially is a way to cover up that a part of you just goes somewhere and maybe has fun or whatever. Could be the same way. Could say, well, we have to go to work, but a part of you might have said, do you want to remember all the hard work you're doing in the Earth reality? No, I don't want to. Once I leave the Earth reality, once I go to sleep at night, I don't want to remember a damn thing. I want to just have fun. So the older brother from Step Brothers, the work side of him is in the hell, is screwed. He's not having fun on the outside. Well, his outside life ain't that great, but let's just say it is. He's not having fun on the outside. He's not whatever. All he knows is the sterile work environment and his strange ass coworkers. So that would be you here on Earth. That would be me. And the only way to equate it would be the sleep, going to sleep. We're convinced, right? But what are we convinced of in this reality? We're convinced that we're sleeping in a bed just dreaming. How do we know? How do you know? The dream could be just a cover up for completely different side of you, maybe not even on what we call Earth. Who knows? Who knows? And then what do we know? And it works the same way when we dream. We wake up in the morning, and it doesn't seem natural that so much time has gone by. I've thought about this many times. Sometimes when I'm really tired, I will sleep a full 7.5, 8 hours. I mean, solid. I sleep pretty well. I know a lot of people don't, and I'm fortunate for that. I can get out, have to get up maybe once in the middle of the night, but I sleep pretty well when I'm tired. Okay, but I've thought many times. I wake up in the morning. I go, it just seems like time didn't exist. Like I was shut off, like Data the robot, and then reactivated, because you have no concept of time. And many times I've thought, well, wow, I just slept 8 hours. And that was the equivalent of, like, during the day, noon, all the way to 8 o'clock at night. I was laying in bed. It just doesn't seem possible. Well, yeah, if there's an aspect of you that's doing other things and is not and is kind of separated the entity that's outside the earth realm, which from you, which is you're the same thing, but you're the entity here doing the work on earth, and it's potentially done during sleep. Now, I'm just trying to equate it, and just if you don't like it, it's just an exercise in thinking big. I don't know, but this is the way I start thinking when I watch a show like this. Just a little more on that, a few more minutes if anybody's not following. In the show, he doesn't leave a body behind at work. He walks over the threshold and from a consciousness perspective forgets what he was doing at work and forgets everything that happened. He doesn't leave a body at work. And when you start watching this the first 5 or 10 minutes, like, well, it's still you. But the main point here is that it's not you or it's not him. Two distinct entities in two distinct realities is the best way to look at this guy's predicament in this show. So he steps across the threshold, walks out in the parking lot to get to his car, remembers, oh, I have a date tonight, or whatever he's going to do socially. He doesn't leave a body back at work or Lieutenant Data that's turned off that needs to be turned on. But that's essentially what's happening. So our situation, of course, would be a little different. We would go to sleep. We would leave a body, a avatar in this reality during what we call sleep. Another aspect of ourself is off doing whatever, wherever. And we're convinced that we're just sleeping and dreaming. And the dream could be just, who knows, it could be just a complete plug-in. So we wake up, oh, I was dreaming. So we don't remember where we really were and for how long it was. Just because we sleep 8 hours, if the entity is that's you is going off, call it whatever you want. It's just, I'm calling it you to you, like the show. Is that the two Utes? The two Utes from My Cousin Vinny Truth Drop? Maybe, but I doubt it. Your higher self, whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean I got 8 hours to party and then I got to get back because Matt, this schmuck's going to wake up early. I got to get back in that. It could be from outside here. It could be 8 million years, or time doesn't probably work the same. So this guy, when he's at work, this aspect of himself, this entity of himself only knows work. One last time, because it's mind-boggling. Go to push the door open to go to the parking lot, 5 o'clock on a Friday, and then not even 1/1000th of a second left. Next, he's stepping back in work. It's like, well, I didn't get to, now I'm stepping back in. I know it's Monday morning. I just stepped back across the threshold. To this guy, or this aspect of the entity, it seems like a millisecond. But then he must be like, this is where the show's got to go. He's like, I didn't have the fun. I don't know what I did out there. I didn't have the rest and relaxation. They do kind of allude to it in the first episode, like, well, we don't even know how we slept. But it's like, yeah, I feel good. I feel good, so I know the me on the outside slept well. If the me on the outside drank too much or whatever, I can feel it. I know what the me on the outside's up to just based on the way they feel. But it's got to go this way. It's got to turn into, a living hell for these people in the office. And you would get to the point where if it's going to just completely shut you off, maybe you don't even want to push the door open to go to the parking lot. You don't want to give the life over to the other you because it shuts you off. I don't know. But then again, who wants to be stuck in this horrible, sterile place? And just relating that to the moment I go to sleep at night, or the moment REM, sleep starts with dreams. Oh, it's just me dreaming. But another aspect of me is wherever on Romulus, drinking Romulan ale, or who knows? It's worth pondering. It's very interesting to me. And it's from top right image from the mega creep Ben Stiller. If the mega creep Ben Stiller's involved, it might be a dark, creepy truth drop, Matt. Oh yeah, if the mega creep Ben Stiller's involved, I agree. It's worth paying more attention to. I mean, boy, there's not too many dudes that would just have the roses drop over as they walk through the garden. That dude he can be funny. There's some scenes in Zoolander I've laughed at, whatever, but there's something really strange about it. Sorry. Based on this Band-Aid I see across his forehead, top right, let me tell you something else about the show. You don't need to see it. The star of the show is pictured here with a Band-Aid across the top of his head. And it's interesting how they bring that into the story. When the picture in the bottom middle, she's the last one to have gotten the procedure. The others have worked there for years. It's basically the opening scene in the first episode. She freaks out on him. He's the one asking the questions. He wants to know if she truly is mind wiped. I don't know what he asked, like, who's the first president of the United States? And she doesn't know. And he might have said, well, can you name a U.S. state? I think she says Delaware. So she knows everything about the outside world that doesn't give away the circumstances. So she won't know the current president, but she'll know there's a state called Pennsylvania. So when I said they're completely unaware of the outside world, I take that back, because you'd have to know a little bit to send out an envelope or whatever. But in terms of giving anything away in terms of the circumstances of culture, what's the most popular song on the radio, she knows nothing. So I guess there's some sort of dividing line like that. But she went right after the procedure. He's trying to ask her questions. She doesn't, again, it's just like completely, it's the birthing of the mind wipe. We come into it as a baby and we learn everything, and because we come in as a baby, it just all seems new and this is my life. She wakes up into it fully grown, not even knowing her name. So she freaks out and she throws the speaker, whatever that thing is, the say speakerphone or whatever, throws it and hits him in the head and gashes across his head. And he understands why she's freaking out. He probably freaked out when he first got the procedure. But at the end of work that day, he goes out, I forget exactly how they present this, but he goes out to his car and there is a envelope there. And it's like, I forget his name, Mark or something. Mark, this is a gift certificate to this restaurant. We're sorry what happened at work. They lied to him. You slipped on the copier and hit your head. They're not going to say a woman that had a procedure, whatever, freaked out and she, tried to hit you over the head with this metal thing. They lied to him. And then I guess he touches his head or something. He's like, yeah, I got injured at work. And they just, he on the outside world, him goes, oh, okay, I got injured at work. And this card that's giving me this gift certificate must be telling me the truth. I fell on the copy or whatever. And that's not what happened at all. Of course, when he goes back into work, his head still hurts. And he remembers every bit of her trying to throw the device at his head. So just one more anecdote or anecdote. I don't know the difference between those words, but you know what I mean. Let's switch it up for a second, talk about something completely different. Greg and I have talked about the Corpus Callosum and how the presentation of everything they say about the Corpus Callosum just doesn't make any sense. We don't think science truly understands what the hell's going on. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, 30 seconds, the two hemispheres of the brain, they say, and the last time Greg and I looked, they're very clear, there's only one connector between the hemispheres of the brain, that one bridge across, the Corpus Callosum, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But then when it really gets weird, okay, Matt, what's the problem? The brain had two separate hemispheres, it connects and talks to itself. Well, through that bridge. Well, the problem is for certain severe epilepsy procedures, it's on record that they cut the thing. Well, how does that work? You never can get a real answer. I mean, I haven't spent months inside the medical journals locked away at the bottom of the MIT library, but it just, I've looked at it briefly. Greg's looked at it briefly. How does that work? If you cut the thing, well, how do you function as a quote, human being if the two hemispheres of the brain can no longer talk to each other? How do you even walk? How do you coordinate your arms and legs? Doesn't the one side control the other side and the other side control the other side? And how do you even clap your hands? How do you speak? How do you form words? Well, what's the big deal, Matt? Well, again, they tell us the only way for the brain to communicate is through this bridge, and then they cut it. And people, generally, they have somewhat of a normal life. They don't just lie to get rid of the epilepsy, they don't just lie in bed as a vegetable. It doesn't make any sense, because then we hear about a stroke victim, a smaller part of the brain is destroyed because of a brain hemorrhage or bleeding, and they can't speak, or they can't lift their right leg up, all sorts of problems. But then they cut the corpus callosum, and those people can have a somewhat normal life. I didn't go to no medical school, but it tells me, hello, I don't care what it says in a medical journal, that the brain can find other ways to communicate. Now, is it some sort of giant conspiracy and lie that they want you to believe the only way to communicate is through this bridge, when it probably can communicate in, who knows, telepathically? The brain isn't even what they say it is, as far as I'm concerned. But it's pretty obvious. I don't care what no goddamn medical journal says. First they tell me that it's the only way, it's the only bridge across to the hemispheres. Then they tell me it can be cut, and thousands of people are living somewhat normal lives without their epileptic seizures. I'm sure there's some side effects, but it's not, again, these people aren't just, they're not laying in the middle of the Metallica 1 video like that after they get the thing cut. They live a somewhat normal life. Again, I'm no expert at it. It tells me that there's other ways the brain hemispheres can communicate with each other. But does science talk about that? It could maybe telepathically, or it creates other channels, or through the heart, or who knows what it is. But Greg and I were talking, and there's just something that they're not telling us. Or it might be as simple as something that science truly doesn't understand, and we know the game they play. They don't understand how the universe was formed, and they don't understand anything. So they come up with the Big Bang, and then because they'll put out a bunch of complicated math and a bunch of mumbo jumbo, and they act at dinner parties and giving speeches like they know what they're doing and they're smarter than you. So let us answer these questions. You can't do the complicated math, proletariat, so you stay the F out of it. We'll let the smart people like Stephen Hawking handle it. There's a little of that going on in that I Pet Goat 2 thing, if I remember correctly. I think there's a lightning bolt going down into the middle of there's a poster of the brain or something on the classroom behind Obama and Bush. I think there's a lightning bolt going down into the brain, and the brain kind of splitting into two different parts. That could be relevant here as well. No matter what, two different yous or two different aspects of you is a huge theme of the creeps that the creeps seem to present over and over again. There's the side of you that only identifies with the ego and certain things that we've talked about a million times, and that wants to attach to this reality, and the side that loves the applause and the awards that this reality bestows on people in terms of the metrics of what is considered successful. Even the two Utes presented in My Cousin Vinny, I presented that 2 or plus 3, 4 years ago, that's some sort of truth drop. And at the time, I was mostly joking. I'm not joking about it now. I believe it's greater than 50-50 chance that is some sort of truth drop. They're big on the two aspects of you. What was it? When the two Utes approached the sack of suds, what did you say, Mr. Gambini? Wait, no, what's a Ute? Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. When the two youths approached the sack of suds. Now, I've joked about that. They're saying that there's two U's. No, it's probably a truth drop. I believe it's greater than 50-50. Right? And I was literally just kidding when I first talked about that. But the two sides of people, it comes up over and over again. I know a lot of what I've been presenting now doesn't even really relate to figuring out the Apple TV show Severance, but I don't know. It's just a side tangent that's worth talking about. The USS Callister Black Mirror episode, an aspect of someone's personality is put into a prison environment, which they're on the ship, the spaceship of the USS Callister, stuck in a video game. The real person working in the office doesn't know that creepy game designer, whatever that creepy thing was, he took they explain it in Black Mirror USS Callister. They took a piece of DNA and recreated like a clone of the person, but in a digital environment. They're stuck in some sort of digital hell flying around inside a video game on this spaceship. But at least from their perspective, which makes it a little bit different from Severance, those on the spaceship in the USS Callister Black Mirror episode, they're always on, if you will. They're always aware and awake. The game designer, the creepy guy, goes away, and then he comes back into his fantasy. They're still there talking and plotting and having drinks, where if it worked like Severance, as soon as the creepy game designer, who's pretending he's Captain Kirk, for example, in this game, USS Callister, as soon as he says end game, the sentience or the aspects of these people he's locked into the video game would end at the moment he says end game, just like this guy crossing over the threshold, leaving work. So this general theme of, I don't know what you want to call it, two yous, two aspects of you, it comes across in a lot of different ways in movies, television shows, media. Even there's another Black Mirror episode that I watched that's very similar to USS Callister. It's almost just as good, or it's just as good. It's called Black Museum, where I think there's two different sub-themes in Black Museum where someone's consciousness or an aspect of themselves is put into a device. What was it? The woman who was killed, she was put into her husband's brain or boyfriend's brain, and she would be able to talk to him at all times, and she started to drive him crazy. And so eventually he got a procedure where he put her consciousness into like a little bear, into a stuffed animal. And all she could do to communicate, it was like a living hell. Her consciousness forever was in a stuffed bear, and she just had two buttons in which to communicate. Was it monkey want a hug, monkey love you? So if it for yes, it was monkey love you, and then if for no, it was monkey want a hug. So that's all she could do, and it was the theme. They didn't say it, but it was pretty obvious that she would never die. I mean, she was stuck. You want to talk about hell, stuck in monkey love you forever, her consciousness. Same with Upload, the Netflix series Upload, which you only have to see an episode, one or two episodes of that to get the gist of it, and then I turned it off. It didn't look like it was going anywhere. But the guy on his, I've said this before, but the guy on his deathbed after his motorcycle accident or whatever, his girlfriend says, go into Upload. I won't be the same without you. Go upload your consciousnness into this computer so we can be together. And then he does, and yeah, I think I've talked about this recently. Just like 4 or 5 days later, she gets bored with him, but his consciousness is stuck in this thing, potentially for eternity, which is very similar to the aspect in USS Callister. This is different with Severance. I mean, it's two conscious entities that are separated, like the cutting of the Corpus Callosum, but it's not, it doesn't seem to really work the way you think it should when they cut the Corpus Callosum. It's two completely different entities having two completely different experiences, but sharing the same body or avatar. And anyway, I don't know. I'm just saying the theme, these creeps love this theme. And even the My Cousin Vinny two Utes in some way, in my opinion, comes into play. Even if the writer of the scene wasn't aware of it, it's that, again, that potentially retrocausality language coming out. And I'm going to do this, guys. I'm going to do a 1 minute on this. There's nothing funnier in the world to me than, can you imagine if somebody in my family or some normal person was listening to this and would say, what? This guy believes that the two Utes scene in My Cousin Vinny is some sort of metaphysical truth about how reality works flowing through a scene in a comedy. You people are sick. I mean, could you imagine how crazy they would think I am? And you guys are like, yeah, I can see that. They've done a whole lot worse. Everybody, to the person that stumbled upon this, there's people here that are just seeing this as no big deal anymore. So who's really missing the boat? They love the two Utes and the dual aspect of man with the Jungian thing. What's that from? Full Metal Jacket. What is it? Joker. What's that, son? Some sort of sick joke? You've got Born to Kill on your helmet, and you're wearing a peace pin, kind of like the pledge pin that Flounder wore in Animal House. What's that? Some kind of sick joke? Explain that. It's the duality of man, sir. The Jungian thing. Anyway, guys, do I have time to? I don't have time to go into the other movie. I really don't. I think I got to wrap this up, and the other movie. There's just a few things I wanted to say about it. I'll do it some other time, guys. Thanks.